Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we are going to be covering the NCAA tournament, March Madness, as it is called here on the channel. We're going to be going over my bracket picks, my bracketology. X, welcome to the stream. Love having you in here. Really appreciate you stopping in for the channel here. I know the brackets are technically not official anymore at this point because the first game of the day did just start. I do not have that game on. That will not impact my pick. And I mean, it just did tip off as well. So at this point, this is essentially where we're at. X, love having you in here. Welcome again to the stream, everyone. And now let's jump in to going through March Madness, filling out my bracket for the very first time. Love having you guys in here. So taking a look at it. At this point, Gonzaga would be my first pick. Okay, this bracket is not fillable at this point now. Give me just 1 second here. I'm going to remove this. And let's go ahead and find another place to do this here. We have a fillable men's college basketball bracket here. See if we can find the brackets here in a better format. You know, it is okay at this point. I'm having some issues finding this. Jonathan, welcome to the stream. R. Vega, what is up? Welcome to the stream. He says, go SDSU. That is awesome. Let's add this back to the stream here. Okay, now looking at this, I'm not going to technically be able to fill it out at this point because, like I said, the games have just started. But Gonzaga beats Norfolk State. That's the easy one. Gonzaga is the #1 overall seed. They are the best team in college basketball at this point, in my opinion. Oklahoma, Missouri, this is a tough one here. I am going to opt for Oklahoma with Tom Crean. I just think that is the more likely team to come out in that matchup. Right here between Creighton and UCSB, at this point, I think UCSB is going to upset Creighton. Creighton had a terrible performance in the Big East Championship game. I think Creighton's a little overrated. So I have UCSB a 12/5 upset there. Virginia goes on to win against Ohio. USC versus Drake. Now, this is an interesting one. Drake just barely held on last night. And USC playing some really good basketball. The Mobley brothers there, very, very good combination. I think USC holds on barely in that game. Kansas versus Eastern Washington. Kansas is the clear winner. Oregon versus VCU. That is an interesting matchup at this point. I think that VCU is a little underrated coming out of that A10 conference. I think that they could really pull off an upset over Oregon here. Oregon did just lose to Oregon State the other day in the Pac-12 championship. I'm going to pick VCU over Oregon. Iowa versus Grand Canyon. Iowa storms over Grand Canyon there. That is a clear win for Luka Garza and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Next is Michigan over Texas Southern. No question there. Michigan playing well all year long. Juwan Howard, their head coach, has been doing a good job there in Michigan. LSU versus St. Bonaventures. Now, we have the A10 champions here in St. Bonaventures versus LSU, the team that almost pulled off the upset over the Alabama Crimson Tide for the SEC championship game. I think LSU holds on over St. Bonaventures. It's a tough place to be. You don't want to be the 8 here because you have to face Michigan right away. But at the end of the day, LSU does beat St. Bonaventures, moves on to the second round. Colorado versus Georgetown. Georgetown did win the Big East tournament, led by Patrick Ewing, and I think Patrick Ewing's going to have his boys playing yet again. Georgetown beats Colorado, in my opinion. Florida State holds on over UNCG. Florida State, very, very good team, well-rounded, great defensive presence. They really know how to coach there at Florida State. They get the most out of their guys. BYU versus UCLA. I see UCLA winning. They beat Michigan State last night to get into the tournament, and UCLA goes on to beat BYU in an upset, 11/6 seed. Number 3, Texas beats Abilene Christian. There's just not a lot to talk about here. Texas, very well-rounded team. ended up winning the conference of the Big 12 in the Big 12 tournament. Texas very well-rounded. Kai Soto, Jericho Sims off the bench, also having Greg Brown III, who's going to be a top 20 pick in the NBA draft. Texas, very good front court. Abilene Christian just doesn't have the physicality to match up with them. Uconn versus Maryland. This is one of the more interesting matchups. I see Uconn holding on barely. However, I would not be surprised if the 10 over the 7 seed is the upset here. Alabama versus Iona. Alabama easily walks through that game. Herb Jones, expect for him to have a massive game in round 1 for Alabama. Also, Javon Quinterly off the bench is going to be very impactful in that matchup. Going back to now the southern region, we have Baylor beating Hartford easily. 30-point plus victory here. Not a lot of doubt in my mind about that game. North Carolina versus Wisconsin. I'm picking Wisconsin over North Carolina. I know Roy Williams is the head coach for North Carolina, but I think Wisconsin is the better overall team. Deron Payne for North Carolina is a very nice player at that big man position. However, I think Wisconsin is just more complete all around. I have 9 over 8 here. Wisconsin beats North Carolina. Villanova versus Winthrop. I have Villanova winning over Winthrop here. David Spadoni says, let's go Illinois. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Love having you in here. And Dane Skate says, yo, Boiler up, go Purdue. Big time Purdue fan. You guys are getting some good recruits for next year as well. That is something maybe we would cover on the channel if you guys are interested in finding out about some college recruits moving forward. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Purdue here is the next matchup, right on time. Purdue over North Texas. No question about that in my mind. Purdue moves on to face Villanova in the round of 32. Texas Tech versus Utah State. Texas Tech's going to win that handedly. I think Texas Tech is a very good team. Mac McClung's been playing great all year for them after transferring to Texas Tech. He will win them this game. Arkansas versus Colgate. Colgate, kind of an underrated team. I'm not going to lie to you guys. However, I just would be surprised if Arkansas does not win in round 1. Florida versus Virginia Tech. Now, this is a tough matchup. I think Virginia Tech's a little slept on, but I think Florida is a very well-rounded team at this point in NCAA basketball. I have Florida just barely holding on to a win over Virginia Tech. Hard to not pick the upset there, 10 over 7, but Florida will win this game, in my opinion. Ohio State rolls through Oral Roberts in the round of 64. Midwest, Illinois versus Drexel. Illinois is going to be a very tough team this year. I would assume who's been playing at an elite level for the Illinois Illini, and I just would be very surprised if the Fighting Illini do not come out of the round of 64 and go further than that as well. Loyola Chicago versus Georgia Tech. I'm actually going to pick Georgia Tech here. They've been a little underrated all year long, 9 over 8, very likely. And I see Georgia Tech winning this game. Tennessee versus Oregon State. I see Tennessee coming out of this game very easily, very mightily. They've got 2 really good young prospects, Keon Johnson and also Jaden Springer. They've also got Ives Pons, who's a big man, protects the rim pretty well for them. Oregon State just doesn't have what it takes to match up with them, despite a recent win over Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Oklahoma State will beat Liberty. Cade Cunningham, the best player in college basketball in terms of what his overall skill set is. I think he impacts winning more than any other player. Him and Luka Garza are really the top 2 in my estimation for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beats Liberty in the round of 64. Next round, San Diego State versus Syracuse. Syracuse, they're known for that 2-3 defense. That will be tough for San Diego State, except SDSU, very well coached up. The Aztecs, very good team. We saw what Malachi Flynn was able to do for them in the regular season last year. This year, San Diego State gets a chance to play in the tourney, and they will beat Syracuse in the first round. West Virginia versus Morehead State. West Virginia, the Mountaineers, come through easily here. Bob Huggins, very good head coach. He will lead the Mountaineers over Morehead State in the round of 64. Clemson versus Rutgers. Clemson holds on here. I think Clemson is a slightly better team than Rutgers, and it's hard to not pick a 10 over a 7. Those are some of my favorite upsets to pick. However, I just see Clemson being a little bit too good. Houston, the 2 seed, easily going to roll through Cleveland State. That is a no-brainer at this point. Going back up now to the West Division. Let's see if we have any more comments going on. Jer X says, go OSU. Big fan of Oklahoma State University. Dane Skate says, who do I have winning it all? that is what you're going to want to stick around for. I'm going through the entire bracket here, giving you my picks as we go. Right here now at this point, we had Gonzaga versus Oklahoma. Gonzaga rolls on. They are loaded. Corey Kispert, NCAA all-first team. Also have Jalen Suggs, who is second team. Drew Timme, who is second team. Gonzaga is absolutely stacked. They will beat Oklahoma handedly. Then we have UCSB versus Virginia. I see Virginia moving on to a matchup of Gonzaga versus Virginia here at this point. Next, we have USC versus Kansas, and I see USC actually moving on in that game. Evan Mobley and his other brother, the Mobley brothers, there will win against Kansas. I think that USC is mildly underrated with their 6th seed. Then we have VCU versus Iowa. Iowa moves on, which leads us to a phenomenal matchup. Here at this point of Iowa versus USC, we get a big man battle between Evan Mobley, a top 5 pick likely in the NBA draft, versus Luka Garza, one of the best players in all of college basketball, if not the best player. And at that point, I'm going to pick Iowa. Iowa moves on to the Elite 8 at that point. Then up here, Gonzaga versus Virginia. Gonzaga moves on. They are also joining Iowa in the Elite 8. Moving down to the Eastern region, Michigan beats LSU here, moves on. Georgetown versus Florida State. Florida State wins handedly there, beats Patrick Ewing's Georgetown team, and move on to the Sweet 16, in which Michigan beats them to get to the Elite 8. Michigan joining both Iowa and Gonzaga in the Elite 8 at that point. Here we have UCLA versus Texas. Texas wins that game. I think Texas is a very, very good team, very well-rounded, great front court play. That is very important in college basketball. And then Alabama here defeats Uconn here in a close game. And I think, well, not a close game. I think probably a 10-point victory or so. Alabama moves on to the Sweet 16 to face Texas, and ultimately Alabama does lose to the Texas Longhorns. I see Texas moving on to the Elite 8 and will eventually face Michigan for a chance to get to the Final Four. Now in the South, we have Baylor versus Wisconsin. Baylor does move on easily there. Jared Butler is a great player. Davion Mitchell, another really good player at that guard position for Baylor. It would just be too much for Wisconsin to handle. Villanova versus Purdue. I have Purdue moving on to play Baylor in the Elite 8. At this point now, we have Texas Tech versus Arkansas. I think Texas Tech pulls off an upset over the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Texas Tech moves into the Sweet 16, where they will ultimately face Ohio State, who knocks off Florida here. Ohio State versus Texas Tech for a chance to get into the Final Four. Now here, the Midwest, we have Illinois versus Georgia Tech. Illinois easily handles Georgia Tech, moves on to the Sweet 16, where they will face the winner of Tennessee, Oklahoma State, which I see being Oklahoma State. I think Cade Cunningham and Isaac Likely impact the game more than Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson. They move on to face Illinois in what will be the best Elite 8 matchup, in my opinion. Next, moving on, we have San Diego State versus West Virginia, and I have San Diego State pulling off an upset here over the Mountaineers. I think that they have enough to move on to the Elite 8 at this point. Houston versus Clemson. Houston easily wins that game, and now we are into the Elite 8. Houston would beat San Diego State, moving them into the Final Four, where they would play Illinois or Oklahoma State, the winner of that matchup. And at this point, I see it being Illinois. The Fighting Illini playing so great. I would assume New has really helped them earn that number 1 seed. They are going to beat Oklahoma State in a very close game. Expect Cade Cunningham to play his heart out in what would be his final game with Oklahoma State before going to the NBA draft. Illinois moves into the Final Four, where they will face off against Houston. Not the Final Four. Now we're into the Elite 8, where they would face Houston. Sorry, guys, I've been off by 1 the entire time here. Baylor faces off against Purdue, and Baylor pulls that one out against Purdue. They now move into the Elite 8 at this point. Ohio State versus Texas Tech, Ohio State pulls that one off. We have Ohio State versus Baylor in the Elite Eight. Baylor wins that game, moves into the Final Four. Illinois wins over Oklahoma State and over Houston. They move into the Final Four as well. On the Midwest and South brackets, we have Baylor in the Final Four and also Illinois in the Final Four. Over here, we have Gonzaga versus Iowa in the Elite Eight game. This is a absolute slugfest. Look for Luka Garza to dominate Drew Timme in that game. However, Gonzaga just has too much with Corey Kispert, Jalen Suggs. Gonzaga wins, moves into the Final Four as well, representing the western part of the conference. East, here we are, Michigan versus the winner of the Alabama-Texas game. I said was Texas, and Michigan handles them as well. Hunter Dickinson's been playing at an elite level all year long for the Michigan Wolverines. Expect him to be a little too much for that Texas front court. Even though they're very strong, Hunter Dickinson is stronger. He gets them into the Final Four. At this point, we have Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Michigan in the Final Four. I think that the bracketologists really got this right with the number one seeds. The toughest one definitely coming, Iowa being the best number 2 seed in my opinion, and they kind of got a lower, they got a tougher matchup against Gonzaga. Had they been maybe down here in the East Conference, they probably could have pulled off an upset over Michigan based on seeding. But at this point, we do have the number 1 seeds all in the Final Four. Michigan versus Gonzaga. Gonzaga moves on. They are just too good. Drew Timme, Corey Kispert, Jalen Suggs. Those are names you need to remember for the NCAA tournament here. Baylor versus Illinois. Baylor pulls this one out. Davion Mitchell, number 45 for the Baylor team, is going to be the reason why they pull off this game. He will go on to Iowa Sumnu and really ultimately slow him down and the Fighting Illini. Baylor wins the championship game. Now at this point is between Baylor and Gonzaga, and I have Gonzaga pulling out the championship game. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this. I have my winner being the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They are the best team in college basketball in my opinion. Let me know in the comments right now who you have winning the NCAA tournament. I would definitely love to see. Luza says he hopes his Terps win versus Uconn. I think it is very possible. Maryland, a very well-rounded team. I think that they could pull it out. Jerger X says he got to head out for now. I might be back later. Love having you in here, Jerger X. Means a lot. Thank you for all the support. Dane Skate says Virginia Tech is up on Florida right now, 10-16. Thank you, Dane Skates, for bringing that in. That was the game that kicked off right at 11:15, right as the stream essentially started. I did not have that game on at this point, so none of the games have actually impacted my bracket here. So far, King Aladdin says Dane Skates, Alabama is winning it all. I mean, Alabama's a very good team. Welcome to the stream again, King Aladdin. Love having you in here. He says hi to JRX. Dane Skates says he picked Ohio State or Kansas. Very interesting there. I would love to hear what you saw in Kansas that led you to choosing them. Hopefully you guys did enjoy my NCAA March Madness bracket breakdown. This is who I think is going to pull it out ultimately. Gonzaga, I just think, is the best team in college basketball. They're so well-rounded, have players at every position that impact winning. Very well coached by Mark Few. I would just be very surprised if Gonzaga does not pull it out this year. It seems like their year. You know, crazy things happen, though, when it's one game elimination, single elimination, does not play the favor of the better team usually. So we'll see kind of how it goes. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy the live stream. T. Dellenbeck says, I got Alabama winning it all. Another Alabama Crimson Tide supporter there. Love seeing that, T. Dellenbeck. That will conclude the live stream here. I know it's just a shorter one today, guys. Just talking about the NCAA tournament. And kind of breaking down my picks for you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.